Why doesn't Deadpool's skin regenerate? Why doesn't Deadpool's skin regenerate? It's weird, right? How a character that's able to regenerate arms, organs, legs, head is still keeping that same peculiar look. Well, in the comics, that is explained this way. Deadpool's healing factor did not only mutate his DNA, but also his cancer. What happens in Deadpool's body is that the cancer cells are constantly mutating and changing, exactly at the same pace that his healing factor regenerates the cells that the cancer kills. So, his body is in a constant process of healing the cancer and getting it again, because the mutation that was made to him adapted itself to the cancer. That is why Deadpool's skin always looks like that. It's maybe even possible that his body grows tumors, heals them, and then gets them again. That is also the reason of Deadpool's mental instability. The neurons in his brain are in a permanent state of change and regeneration, which ends up affecting his behavior and his personality. But at least the advantage of that is that it also makes him immune to telepathic attacks.
Wow!
Who is the slowest Flash? Who is the slowest Flash? As we know, the Flash is a role that has been played by several characters throughout all of history. Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, and Wally West are only a few examples, and in my opinion, the most emblematic ones. Just like there have been many characters that have carried this identity, his speed has also changed. Out of these incarnations, I would say that the slowest one historically has been Jay Garrick. Jay was the first Flash of them all, who got his powers after having inhaled the fumes of a chemical called hard water. What's funny is that in his beginnings as a character, Jay Garrick was the only speedster that didn't get his powers from the Speed Force. The Speed Force is a multiversal energy that gives power to the DC Comics speedsters, but Jay, not having any link to it whatsoever, could not access it in any way. This meant certain perks, given that at one point in which the Speed Force didn't exist, he would still keep his powers normally, given that he is a metahuman with the power of super speed. But obviously, that also carries some disadvantages, such as not being so fast.
Wow!
How is it that Cap's shield returns to him? How is it that Cap's shield returns to him? Well, there are small changes depending on the version. For example, in the MCU, we saw him using a kind of magnet to bring it back, but he can make it come back without that device thanks to two things. The first one is that Cap's shield in the comic books is made out of a special vibranium and adamantium alloy, besides also having a third special metal. This allows it to bounce back off of solid surfaces. This way, if the Captain throws it at an opponent that's in front of him, the shield will return with the impact. We've seen the Cap make shots in which he hits 2 or more enemies and his shield returns. Here's where the second factor comes into play. Thanks to the very super soldier serum, Steve Rogers improved his capacity of thought, which allows him to calculate in a matter of mere seconds the angle and the trajectory in which the shield will move if he throws it. The experience he has using this object also makes a difference. He perfectly knows its weight, its shape, and its capacity of rebound. All this makes it easy for him to know where to hit so that the shield returns to him.
Wow!
Could Magneto pick up the Mjolnir? Could Magneto pick up the Mjolnir? The quick answer is yes, but let's clear this up. Magneto has the power of controlling the electromagnetic fields around him. The Mjolnir is made of Uru metal. Even though it's a metal with magic properties, it is a metal nevertheless, for which it still generates an electromagnetic field that Magneto can manipulate. This has allowed him to make it levitate and even wield it with his own hands. However, here's where the difference is. Magneto can pick it up, but not possess it as such. Let's remember the inscription: "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." And obviously, Magneto isn't worthy. No matter how much he can hold it, he won't get Odin's son's powers. But even still, it's still a hammer.
Wow!
Can Deadpool die of starvation? Can Deadpool die of starvation? Wade Wilson, better known as Deadpool, is a character whose main feature is his regeneration factor, higher than characters like Wolverine, making him someone very tough to kill. But could someone like this starve to death? This has already been explained in a comic, and the answer is no. During the story Cable X4's Messiah War, Deadpool explains to Wolverine that after a fight he hid inside a freezer in the basement of a building. Unfortunately, Wade got stuck and was locked in there for more than 8 centuries. 8 centuries! 800 years locked up without eating, drinking, or anything. Obviously his mental health was bad, or well, even worse than usual. But Deadpool managed to survive all that time without any kind of food. So maybe you should cross out starvation from your list of ways to kill Deadpool. Just to clarify, Wolverine does need to feed, and thus could not last even half the time Deadpool spent without eating.
Wow!
If Billy Batson loses his tongue, will he not be able to turn into Shazam? If Billy Batson loses his tongue, will he not be able to turn into Shazam? I found this question very interesting, so I got investigating. I was checking forums, searching in comic books, even in video games, because it's supposed that somewhere he must have transformed without pronouncing the word Shazam. I saw some fans that said there's a story in which Billy pronounces Shazam under the water and he transformed, although I couldn't find the comic, and honestly I thought it was pretty crazy. The closest thing I found was this, Shazam's Showcase, written by Geoff Johns, where the character's origin was reinvented. In this story, Billy stumbles upon Black Adam, and right before he can pronounce the word Shazam, Adam covers his mouth, thus preventing his transformation. So I think this can give us an idea that if you can prevent Billy from saying Shazam, he won't be able to access his powers, though I'd say the best option is to take his ability to speak, since without a tongue he might say something like Shazam!
Wow!
Is there a universe in which Thanos wins? Is there a universe in which Thanos wins? There is. And in fact, that's the name of the story. Thanos wins. In this comic, a version of Ghost Rider, portrayed by Frank Castle, known in our world as the Punisher, takes Thanos to a future that's far, far away from our regular timeline. In that time, practically all life in the universe has been wiped out, all except one thing, Thanos. An old version of Thanos asks his younger self to help him with the extermination of the last being remaining to be killed, Silver Surfer. All this to fulfill his deepest desire, to please his beloved Death. That's right, despite the passing of the years, Thanos will still be the same old simp. This story ends with the young Thanos rejecting his destiny and swearing to himself to never end up as the future version of himself, being a sad and weak youngster. Which is why by making this decision, the old Thanos disappears, showing us how life in the universe ends with Thanos winning, and finally, with the existential nothingness. Grim stuff.
Wow!
Why couldn't the Cap pick up the Mjolnir in Avengers Age of Ultron? Why couldn't the Cap pick up the Mjolnir in Avengers Age of Ultron? As we can remember, in Avengers Age of Ultron, there's a scene where the Avengers try to pick up the Mjolnir, but none of them can do it. The only one that gets to move it a little bit is the Cap, but he can't pick it up either. This means that from Avengers Age of Ultron to Avengers Endgame, something changed and made the Cap worthy. Well, there are two theories that can explain this. The first one is that the Cap actually was worthy, and he noticed it right when he touched the Mjolnir. However, his humble personality and unpretentious character made him decide not to pick it up so as to not make Thor look bad. It's something that really does fit with Steve Rogers' personality. The second theory is that in the movie Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the Cap finds out that Bucky is the one that killed Iron Man's parents, but he never told it to Tony until the events of the movie Civil War. Keeping such a dark secret would be the thing that made him not worthy and prevent him from lifting the hammer. The truth is that both theories fit quite well. Personally, I lean more towards the second one.
Wow!